All right. What is up, everyone? This is Open Minded. I'm Pete.
I'm Zach.
And today we're going to be asking the question, when will we be a spacefaring civilization?
I love this subject.
You're a dick.
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime.
Like the interesting thing is the houses you see around you are all solar houses.
21st Century Fox has been holding talks to sell most of the company to Walt Disney.
So do you have like a 100-year kind of situation, or maybe 1,000-year, or maybe 50-year? Or how do you think of that?
Within 100 years. Like
Yeah, spacefaring, you mean our solar system?
Yes. I mean, being able, like, having human beings living somewhere other than Earth. And I think within 100 years, we'll have people living on the moon, and we'll also have people living on Mars.
Yeah, I could say in 100 years we're probably there. But
there's one thing that
what
actually...
about, like, further than Mars? What about, like, moons of, like, Jupiter and Saturn?
Well, I think that those places are kind of, like, too hostile. Like, Titan or Europa, like, I feel like those might be too hostile. I think that if we start with Mars, because Mars is more familiar to us and it's closer to the sun, I'm pretty sure a lot of, like, radiation that comes off of Jupiter and Saturn, because
It's huge.
Yeah, they're fucking huge and they're so close to them. So, like, our sun lets off radiation, but I think it's a different type of radiation. I think those might be too hostile for us, because Mars is hostile enough.
All right.
And I think that if we
But
could
there
figure
could
out
still
living on
be,
Mars,
I would say, like, there would be bases as far as, like, maybe military or scientific.
I think maybe there would be some space stations orbiting around those two.
Robotic droids go down? And
No,
then
people will probably go down, but living on the surface, I think, is too hostile.
Like a city, yeah.
Yeah.
You can never make a city on it.
Yeah, and also the technology to be able to survive on that hostile of a place. Like, I mean, we'd get there eventually, but I think that Mars and the Moon are more feasible for 100 years. Maybe, like, I'd see us trying to find another planet similar to Earth and putting more resources into that than trying to figure out how we're going to survive on Titan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you on the 100 years for Mars and the Moon. But what would you say about, like, the technology of mining asteroids?
That, I think, is going to happen much sooner, before we even get to Mars. I can't say that because Elon Musk just came in and fucked everything all up.
I don't know. I think because that's, like, you have to make it feasible, you know? So, like, you have to at least carry, like, you know, tons and tons and tons of a certain material, like platinum or whatever. We go to a platinum asteroid, we start getting platinum. To make it even worthwhile, you have to collect so much of it, and we don't have ships that'll collect that much yet. And, like, I don't think we have the technology to veer asteroids off course and make into, like, tiny moons yet.
That's what I think. I agree. I mean, landing on another planet or on a moon is one thing. Landing on an asteroid is one thing, which we've done. But taking control of that object's orbit and trajectory and bringing it and controlling it, bringing it into the orbit of Earth or orbiting around our moon so that we can mine it, that's way more difficult and technical than just landing on something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So how do you think they would do it? Do you think
that
they would?
It's both eventual. Like, the mining of asteroids, we would eventually have to do that because we need natural resources in order to make certain things. Even at a point where we are using renewable energy or even like some source of free energy, either from the sun or from like nuclear fusion, we would still need natural resources to build the materials in order to harness that energy. So
Yeah.
mining asteroids is an inevitability. An
Yeah,
inevitability.
but how do you think we're ever going to be doing it? Like, I imagine if we ever get it in orbit, like a moon or whatever, around our planet,
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be worth it to, like, collect it and then land the stuff on Earth and then
No.
go back up and keep doing it that way. I think the best thing to do would, like, break it maybe into, like, little pieces and then have it, like, little pieces, like, land on Antarctica or something, and then we just start,
No,
like,
that's not even what's
No?
going to happen. Well, maybe if we can harness the power of gravity and figure out how to have artificial gravity in space, this is what's going to happen. We're going to collect the asteroids, we're going to grind them up into little pieces and into almost like a powder or a liquid, and then we're going to use 3D printers in space to manufacture everything. And then transporting those items from space to somewhere else will take zero energy, little to no energy to transport stuff in space. It's just like this. Ding. And then you're transporting it. But if you're building something on the Earth and like you're taking the materials, bringing it down to Earth, building something, and then taking it back outside of the atmosphere, that takes a tremendous amount of energy.
Well, no, I was saying it as far as, like, we have the materials and space, stations can use that the way you were just describing, but also it's got to benefit Earth too. So, like,
yeah, some of it
you
will come
gotta
back
use
to Earth
some
to
things
use.
for the cities and everything, but how would they get that down there?
They would
Like, to make it worthwhile. Like, we can't bring down, like,
Yeah, we
tons
can.
at a time. That's not enough.
It would. Well, have you heard of the BFR that SpaceX is manufacturing now?
Mm-hmm.
That's
What
a
is it,
big-
like 50 or 70,000 pounds it could lift or something like that?
Something like that. It can lift a lot, and it can travel from one side of the Earth to the other in 30 minutes. So imagine a fleet of those constantly going, like lifting off, going into orbit, grabbing a fuck ton of asteroid matter, and then just landing back down on the Earth. And then while that one did the entire cycle, like 10 more of them is like right behind, like, it would be like clockwork. And then we would be able to, fuel, it would take a lot of fuel to do that, but
Yeah, but, like,
we need to find
I think we basically we get the fuel from the air, and us using it just turns it into some other form of air, and then plants and microbes turn it back into the same air that we used as fuel. Like, I forget what we use it as. It's not like
Well, I
liquid
think-
oxygen.
yeah,
it's like,
it is. It's an
or
oxygen.
solid. It's solid. It's a
there's-
solid state fuel that we use, but I can't remember what it is.
Well, what Elon Musk is proposing in on Mars, like the way that we would go there and then be able to travel back, would be he wants to mine the water that's underneath Mars's surface, chemically separate the hydrogen and the oxygen from the water, and use the oxygen. Is it the oxygen as fuel? I think it's the oxygen as fuel. He would make fuel out of the oxygen.
Well, that
I
would
think
be
it would
good
make more
for-
sense to make hydrogen fuel and then use the oxygen to breathe. But
Well, no, because think about it this way: the more carbon gases you release into Mars, the warmer it gets, and more like Earth it will become.
yeah,
So, I kind of like the idea where you were saying just start nuking. Like, we have clean nukes that don't make, like, insane radiation like back in the day and everything.
Yeah.
So, like, it's just basically a giant explosion that will just sort of bake the planet. I mean, it's not like it's really habitable for us right now in the first place. Nuking it won't make it any different,
that's true. I'm kind of nervous that, and I think we've talked about this in another episode, that warming up that planet enough is going to melt the water, and then in that water is going to be microbiology that we can't handle, and we're going to get some type of, because the only type of life that's there, if
That's
it is
the whole
even there,
thing.
is
Why-
these microbes that could be a virus or bacteria that our bodies can't handle. Maybe eventually
Yeah, but
we
that's
would,
the whole thing. Why can't their bodies handle ours?
because they don't have bodies. It's just a microorganism at this point.
Yeah, but we have microorganisms. What if ours are better than theirs? And
Well,
we just completely overwhelm them.
that would be a much better scenario for us.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like, I understand if you go to a planet and there's smart aliens and they're, civilizations and they have language and whatever, leave them alone. That's their planet. They could work on it. But if it's just like tiny microbacteria or maybe just the possibility of microbacteria, I think that planet is, forfeit to humans.
Forfeit to humans meaning we
yeah.
shouldn't go there?
No, the planet
Or-
is forfeited to us.
Oh, okay.
We are better and more important than microbes on Mars.
Yeah, I agree. If there's a whole ecosystem with like animals and monkeys and stuff like that, like we
that's
shouldn't
different.
fuck with that. We should try to integrate with that. But we can't even become one with our own planet. Can we be expected to have that type of responsibility of going to another planet and preserving their ecosystem if we're just
I think
willingly
because we
destroying
take Earth
our
for
own?
granted, and if we go and try and get to another planet, the people that are even going to go to that planet are people that are, in my opinion, kind of smarter than people that don't. So, like, they're going to be.
I would go.
think if we go to a planet, I think we're going to take better care of that planet than we ever will of Earth.
Haven't you ever seen Pandora? I mean, Avatar.
Pocahontas in space, you mean?
Yeah, I just watched it recently, and it made me very pessimistic about going to another planet, because that is what human beings do. We go somewhere, we destroy nature, and we build our own fucking buildings and concrete and shit, and, like, look at...
I say we make nature. But 1 second, I have to let Bronson in.
You son of a bitch!
Get back. Stay.
Well, I think...
Well, I say we make nature because, like, for instance, did you know that there's more trees now on Earth than there were during the Bronze Age?
Really?
Yes. We used to, every forest in Britain, where you ever see movies where it's like back in the day, and like they're going through a forest and there's like sticks on the ground and falling over trees and stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that back in the day. Back in the day, like that's all they had. They would go through the forest, pick up sticks because it made it easier for hunting and going through and everything, and they would cut I forget what they call it, like topping a tree or something. And they cut the top off, and all the branches that grow up from there are tiny little, like bow and arrow style sticks that grow up. So that everything was like farmed back in the day. That's why there's no like bears or anything in Europe, because they designed their entire landscape.
That's pretty insane. So
the same thing with
more...
like back in the day with like the Mayans. Even in America, it was the same way. They made their forest. They made their city around these like watering holes. And then I don't know exactly what happened to kill all the Mayans, but
I think that
now
was
the forest overgrows it, and we don't
disease.
even know where these things are without like lasers and shit.
So that may be true that we like help create more
Bronson,
nature.
cut it out.
That may be true that we help create more nature, but at the same time, I feel like, need to integrate ourselves with nature a little bit more. Like, have more trees in cities. Like, there are some cities that are very good at that. Like, in Idaho is, like, Boise is, I think, called the city of trees, and it's like integrated parks into the city landscape, and people grow like gardens and stuff on their rooftops. Like, I think with the emergence of smart cities where we integrate things and have a lot more clean energy, we will kind of advance ourselves to a point where we could harness energy differently than we're doing now. So, like, I think
that kind of a technology would help with the colonization of other planets. I mean,
yeah.
like, imagine like a smart building where that building has any person in it can survive on the plants and animals grown in that building alone. Like, you could just plop that building down, have it enclosed, nobody gets in or out, and that building
Biodome.
survives on its own, you know?
Like Biodome.
Like a biodome, yes. But I imagine like a building with layers and, you know...
Like a city building.
A city building. Exactly. Foreshadowing.
Well, that's like... If you look at nature, all of nature is symbiotic. If we want to survive, we need to become symbiotic with nature, like just like that, where we have an
I don't
entire
think it's symbiotic on
Well-
purpose. I think it happens to be symbiotic because...
Well, right now we're
Well,
not
system.
symbiotic with nature. We are the only... Well, we're not the only organism, but we are the only, like, multiple, like, multi-organism, like, animal that isn't symbiotic with nature. Like, we destroy
I don't
things.
think other animals are. Like, think about wolves or the population with rabbits. Like, it goes up and it goes down because wolves will basically kill them out of extinction in their one area, and then the wolves die, and then, 7 years later, the rabbit's population comes back in, and it seems symbiotic over time, but it's actually not. Like, they're literally killing all the rabbits and then starving to death because there's no more rabbits.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, but like, in the fact that in some areas the wolves control the population of rabbits, they don't hunt them, to complete extinction. They always come back, and the rabbits feed the wolves. So, and then when something dies, the energy and the biological matter from that dead corpse either feeds another animal or seeps down into the dirt, which then fertilizes it, which then can help it grow more plants in order to feed more animals. And it's just like it's the circle of life, like symbiotic in that way. And it's worked like that since the beginning of life on our planet, which we have no idea when that was. But I think that that's proof enough. Over 4 billion years, life has been thriving on this planet because it's been symbiotic with itself, and it's allowed itself to evolve over time. And if we want to continue to survive, because we are the youngest species on this earth, we need to learn to be symbiotic with nature and allow ourselves to evolve. Like, in order to become a spacefaring civilization, we need to work on ourselves and our culture and our community and our governance and ourselves as like a civilization. We need to like fix some things in order for us to thrive in space. Otherwise, we're just going to destroy shit.
I agree that we need to fix some things, but I don't know if we agree on the things that we need to fix. I think in a lot of ways we're pretty good, and we could learn things on the way. Like, some people will die, yeah, obviously, but they were going to die anyway, if we didn't do it, because Earth is, it's just Earth. If anything happens to Earth, we're all dead. We need to get to space.
Exactly,
So,
and that's why...
no matter what, we need to start getting to space now, because you're only going to kill everybody instead of, just Earthlings.
I think that... Wait. What? I completely forgot what I was just going to say.
I don't know what you were going to say, but, like, there's certain things that I think that we're good at, that other people think is like a fault, like what you were just saying about what were you saying?
Us, like the way we govern our culture, the way we interact with each other, the way we're.
Oh no, yeah, that stuff. But like you were saying, how we're the youngest species.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think of it as it's like the opposite. Everyone has stayed the same as young, and we've just matured into the Earth's most mature species.
Yes, we're the most mature species, but we're also the youngest. Like, you even look at chimpanzees have been around longer than us.
But, you know, you are right now the newest form of Pete at the moment.
That's true. But I'm always
it's not
changing.
like you're younger than your previous selves. You're actually just more mature, older.
What I'm talking about, yes, you're right. We're the newest species. You know, youngest meaning been around the least amount of time, but if you're talking about maturity and intelligence, we are the oldest. We're the older brother.
Well, because also, you know, nature will put animals into extinction. Humans can save them from extinction.
Yeah. Humans
So
are
in
the
a lot
only
of ways,
animals
we
that
do-
can
we
save
do
other
that
animals.
too. Yeah. I'm not sure so much if we've saved animals that we put into extinction. Like, I'm not sure if, like, we were the ones going around killing Siberian tigers. I
No,
think
but
it's
the
just
destruction
they were on the
of-
downfall anyway.
Yeah, but the destruction of certain ecosystems helped to extinct a few species of animals. Like, that's why I'm saying we are destructive and we're not symbiotic with nature, because we destroyed certain
Everything
ecosystems and
is
then
destructive.
yeah.
Think about, like, you put what's it called, that itchy stuff, poison ivy, into a forest, and it starts killing all the other plants because it's like a infestation of a plant, or like.
But is that what you want
oak trees or-
humanity to be looked at
Oak trees.
as an infestive species, like a virus or poison ivy, something
I
that will
think
infest?
so, if
We wouldn't
do
be
good
accepted into the
things without
into the
virus.
galactic government if we were infestive. They would say, we can't let humans in; they'll just take over and destroy everything.
Yeah, but if we do take over, and they notice that we do take over, but instead of destroying everything, we destroy some things and make other things that are more beneficial thrive. Like, imagine we got rid of, I don't know, some shitty plant, and everywhere that plant grew, now some sort of flower for bees, or maybe rice will grow in its place, or corn, or something. Things that, like, most animals can eat.
I still think that we have a lot of work to do on ourselves. Look at the agricultural and farming business right now. Like, we just completely enslave animals from birth to death, and we fucking that it's such an inhumane way to get sustenance. And we're just like, we've taken an animal that has evolved over millions of years, and we've domesticated it, and then now we only use it. There are no more wild cows.
Yeah. Well, there's buffalo and whatever they're called.
Buffalo
that are
are-
like in Africa and shit like that.
They're approaching extinction. Buffalo
And yaks.
Yeah.
But this is what I think. When we start going to space and we have to start doing stuff, we're not going to be bringing eggs and cows and fucking,
No, we're not.
fucking fish and shit like that. We're going to be bringing insects. And we're just going to grow insects and shit and fucking garbage. And they're going to eat that shit, and we're going to eat the insects. Because that is one of the healthiest forms of protein.
Yeah, but I don't see that
We
happening.
Keep them in a
People
controlled
won't accept that.
No, we would. Imagine if they were like, yo, we'll give you a ride to fucking Mars. You're going to live on Mars, you can start building shit. Maybe one of the area will have your name and shit like that, and it'll be fucking awesome. But the only thing is, you have to drink filtered piss water as your water, and you have to eat insects and like pills and shit like that. And maybe eventually you'll start growing plants, and fucking maybe somebody will bring like embryos, and you could start raising chickens in like 60 years. But for that whole time, you're eating
we would never take steps backwards to raising animals the way we raise them now. We would.
Well,
We're going.
I'm saying
Eventually,
we
we're
won't
going
have the
to.
room. We won't have the room on Mars or the Moon to actually bring animals yet.
We
So
would
you're going
print
to
the
be
meat.
20 or whatever amounts of years. There's not going to be farming going on.
The farming
But,
is going to be different. We're going to be able to print meat and grow meat.
We might be able to print meat, but not yet. I'm saying right now, if this happens,
Yeah, right.
they
now.
might be able to send you MREs like, every 6 months you get like a package or something like that, and that'll be gone very quickly. But you're basically going to be eating insects.
Well, listen to this. There are companies that are doing a lot of research into both printing, 3D printing meat, and growing meat. So I think within the next 20 years, they're going to sprout up everywhere, just like indoor farms are sprouting up in all different places where you can grow the equivalent of 5 acres of crops in a frickin' building, an abandoned steel mill in
I think
New
that
Jersey.
shit's so cool.
It's
That's so
cool.
awesome.
And the same
Yeah.
thing's going to happen with meat, where in the future, I think I give it 20 to 25 years. If you want to know more about where your cheeseburger came from, you go into the city, and it's like a brewery. They have all of the nice metal containers where they're growing the meat, and they
But I wouldn't want to eat a steak. Like, I could
Why?
understand, like, maybe taco meat. Like,
if it's
ground-
identical, they are breaking down the enzymes and the proteins that make the meat, and they're just printing it or growing it straight from.
But I
those
want it to have
enzymes.
an actual muscle structure. Like, I would want it to look like a steak with, like, marbled fat and everything.
Give it some time, and it'll be identical to a steak the way it is now. If you give it some time. Right now, it's there in its very primitive stages, but in 20, you know how technology is exponential. Give it 20 years, and most of the steaks that you buy at the store will most likely be grown or printed. And
You know what
that's going
else
to
we
be
could be
going to be
doing?
the main thing that pushes us
I don't know.
toward space
I was
travel.
just thinking, like, an algae shake or some shit like that.
You know how humans are. We're not going to accept that. I mean, at first, yes.
Yeah, but
once
there
we
are
start,
people in, like, China right now that are drinking intoxified water and eating fucking the
Yeah.
worst things, like, every day, and they just accept it. Like,
I guess you're right.
I would definitely do all that shit. Like, have an algae shake in the morning with a few fucking, like, beetles or some shit. Fucking fried, air-fried fucking spiders, and you just
Air-fried
crunch them
spiders.
for lunch.
It's
Maybe
like
an
calamari.
MRE for dinner.
Spiders are like calamari. They're like the squids or the crabs of the desert.
Yeah, the starfish of the desert.
So listen to this.
Land.
Listen to this. The starfish of the land. Listen to this. I think so. There's something called I think it's called the Cardiff Scale, and it talks about the different civilization types. And there's 4 types, but they're titled Type 0, Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. Now, tell me if this sounds familiar. Type 0 civilization relies on fossil fuels and has borders that divides cultures and countries. That's where we're living right now. We're relying on fossil fuels, and we're divided as a species by borders and different rules and different ideologies. Now, a Type 1 civilization is a global civilization that gets most of its energy from green, renewable energy and can harness the power of the earth and is symbiotic with nature and it has one global economy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that some people are pushing for, a globalized economy and a globalized government, which scares some people, and I could see why.
It kind of scares me.
Now, a Type 2 civilization, so that was Type 0 and Type 1. Type 2 civilization is a stellar civilization that colonizes multiple planets in its own solar system and can contain energy and extract energy from its own star. So that's...
Like a Dyson sphere?
Maybe like a Dyson sphere, something similar to that, but we basically have unlimited energy to colonize our solar system because of our star is a giant battery, basically, that's it's far away from us, but it's not far in comparison to the rest of the universe. It's a giant battery right next door that we can collect our energy from. So that's what we're aiming for with colonizing Mars and the Moon, and possibly like maybe even Venus or Titan or Europa. And then Type 3 civilization is a galactic civilization that can harness the energy from multiple stars and travel seamlessly between solar systems. So that's far off.
Star Trek.
That's more like Star Wars. Star Trek is yeah, I guess Star Trek treads into that, but is more category 2 maybe. I don't know. But in order to get to a Type 2, which is what we're aiming for, a spacefaring civilization, even just in our own backyard, in our own solar system, we have to first get to a Type 1. We're at Type 0 right now. We can't skip from 0 to 2.
Now, does it have to meet those qualifications to be a Type 1? Can we do something else, but also be just as technological and getting energy resources a certain way?
I think a big part of it is a global cooperation. And
I think
because
a global competition
is
better.
How can we govern civilizations in space if we can't even like agree on shit on Earth? We're one civilization. Like look at the way that
I know how. We should write a book about it.
Look at the way that other countries react when a country goes to space or gets the ability to go to space. Like even in the 60s between Russia and us, as soon as we got to space, they're like, they're going to use that to bomb us. And we did the same thing to them. It's just always tension and constant tension, but we're all working together for one goal of colonizing space. And we are all in agreement, and we could still have different countries that kind of govern themselves, but all answer to a one government, kind of like the way the United States works, or the European Union with their one currency going across it's in its very primitive stages. I'm not saying that those things are working perfectly right now, but I think that in order to get to a point where we are colonizing our solar system and traveling between planets, we need to become one as an Earth and as a species instead of dividing ourselves, because we're never going to be able to get that far. We're never going to be able to handle the responsibility or the technology of being a stellar civilization if we can't even agree on what we're doing on our own planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get all that, but I think, like you were saying with America and Russia, the only reason we got into space was because we were competing to do it. Like, competition is what makes the best innovation. That's where evolution works. Like,
why
if there
does
was
it
no
have to be
competition in
competition?
evolution, we'd still be bacteria.
But why does it have to be competition between countries? Why can't it be competition between corporations? The way that SpaceX.
Then what's the difference?
The difference is
need to read. You need to read Snow Crash. I was telling you about Snow Crash.
No,
that's basically what it is. There's no real countries. It's just a corporation now can own that much land that would be a country, and you live in it, and there's like advertisements, and there's all these crazy things. But it would be the same exact thing. You have your certain to live, like just say you're on Google's property. You have to go by
moon
Google's
is changed
because his
to
security
Google.
force will escort you out. It's the same thing as a country.
I think that it would be different because I'm not proposing that corporations buy land and then rule that land because you can't. Me as a citizen of that area, I don't vote in the people who make the rules. I'm saying the innovation of technology, the way that they have the X Prize now, and they say, hey, there's a $5 million prize for the first person, the first company or group of people who can successfully build a rocket that breaks our Earth's orbit. And SpaceX was in that competition, and they won that competition because they are now one of the prime providers of American space travel. And so that type of rivalries.
You could have a global competition within a global government.
Like if the government
But then how do you know that one global government is making the best decision? We'll have to get into maybe a galactic government or something like that for another podcast.
They would have to follow the same type of
goes in with colonizing space.
I know. It is a huge problem because if America and Russia and China are all colonizing different parts of space, they're going to claim that as their own, just like they did on Earth. And then there's going to be more wars and space battles, which sounds cool, but it's really not cool, man.
Yeah.
It's gonna fuck all of us up, and we're gonna end up killing each other because we have two options: thrive, evolve, and survive as a species, or die either in an extinction caused by nature that we can't stop because we're not technologically advanced enough, or we kill each other off because we become too technologically advanced without understanding the responsibility of harnessing that technology. It can happen
But then
so
still
easily.
think about it. If we kill ourselves on Earth and we're a spacefaring nation, we still have the other colonies that can thrive and now know that lesson.
Well, I think there's so much more that goes into it than just having the technology to be a spacefaring civilization. We need to really look at ourselves as human beings.
I would say, though, just to finish it off, within 100 years, we're definitely going to have a settlement or a station or some sort of a encampment on the moon or on Mars or on both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then that'll be the start of us being spacefaring.
That'll be the start. And also at that same point, we'll be able to harness and mine asteroids, I think.
Probably. Or at least be practicing doing it.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Give us an email at openmindedepisodes.com. Let us know your ideas, your thoughts on this subject, and if you want to hear us talk about anything specific, just give us a ring, yo. That was super lame.
All right.
All right. Bye.